everybody. Welcome in Moksha Kutir, the house where Swami Kriyananda lived when he was in Europe and where he left his body in 2013. I am Darshan and I'm here today with Tyagini Gitanjali, who has played an important role for many years in the development of Yogananda's and Kiryananda's work in Europe. Mainly through your service in the field of music, but also as a teacher in the healing ministry. Maybe we'll talk about that, and also as a minister of Ananda. So thank you for being here, first of all.
Thank you for asking me.
This is all set to get to know more about the history of the work and the nature of the work, of Master's work, Yogananda's work in Europe. So when did you come to Europe? Why and how did it happen? Let's start with that.
Well, I came here to live in February of 1989. I received a phone call asking if I wanted to move to Italy for a while because they were starting a choir here. And I am a singer, and I was single, and I didn't have an essential position at Ananda Village, so they invited me, and I was happy to come with 3 or 4 other people. The first thing we did after I got here as a choir was to sing for Pope John Paul II in one of his public audiences in Rome. That was in March of '89, so that was a really fun way to begin my time here serving with the music. And then immediately thereafter, we all left for Germany in 2 vans to do a tour, singing in different churches and cultural centers in Germany. So, excuse me, that was also quite an amazing experience.
So, and then further back, you were, when you came here, you were living, when you received that message, you were in Ananda Village. And how did you get to live there? Just shortly.
How did I come to live in Ananda Village? Well,
in California.
I met Swami Kriyananda in 1978. And he came to Colorado where I was living with a group of people. And as soon as I met him and the people that were with him, I knew that Ananda was my home, and that eventually I would be living there. It took me a couple of years to make that change, and I first moved to the Ananda House ashram in San Francisco, which was a huge mansion. There were about 40 of us living in it, and I was studying holistic health and serving in the restaurant there, which was called Earth Song. And then a couple of years later, I moved to Ananda Village and began working. I actually served in many different ways, but most of the time I was working at Master's Market, which I also really enjoyed.
Yeah. So it's been a long time, actually, since you first started on this spiritual path.
Yes.
Like you said, 1979?
78. It was just the day after my 25th birthday.
Amazing.
And I had already read the autobiography, and when I met Swamiji, I bought the Path. Mm-hmm. And that was what really brought Master alive for me, was reading that book. Which
is now called The New Path.
The New Path, exactly.
Yeah. So how did it happen then? So what a glorious, wonderful way to come to Europe with a concert for, the Pope, but also just bringing Swami Kiryananda's music to so many people. Mm-hmm. How then did it happen that you, instead of for 3 months, which is like legally possible for Americans in Europe, you stayed for how many years now?
Oh gosh, it's been over 30 years. Yeah. Well, at that time there was a little loophole, a legal loophole, which no longer exists, unfortunately. We were able to come over on a religious visa as missionaries.
You certainly look like a missionary.
Yeah, exactly. And that gave me the option of getting a 1-year permission to stay, permesso di soggiorno, which I renewed. And then I got married to Yogendra, who is Italian. And then after that, as the wife of an Italian citizen, I was able to stay indefinitely.
It became easy, yeah. So again, the music. Let's first have a look at your name, your spiritual name. I remember first it was Anjali, and then it became Gitanjali. Has that got anything to do with the music?
Well, indirectly, I'm sure. I had asked for a spiritual name for some time, and Swamiji never came up with one. So I actually asked him if I could take the name Anjali, because I thought it was really beautiful. It means self-offering to God. It was the name of Hare Krishna Ghosh's wife, and it just was a really sweet name. So I asked him, and he said yes, and he blessed me. And then a couple of years later, when he gave Yogendra his name, Yogendra is my husband, in an email, in the same email, he said, I never really thought Anjali was exactly right for you. What would you think of Gitanjali? And of course I was thrilled. And yes, it adds that element, Gita, which means song. So I interpret it as self-offering to God through song, through music. And that has certainly been one of my primary ways of serving and attuning myself to Master and to Swamiji, is through the music, and Master's music and also Swamiji's music.
Can you share something? I'm sure that your relationship with that music is very subtle. So can you share something what you feel are the specific uplifting spiritual qualities of Swami's music, Swami Kiryananda's music, in your own experience especially?
Well, in my own experience, it always gave me joy. I discovered early on the healing power of his music, because I've always struggled with the tendency to be over-emotional, to react, to get anxious, to get angry, to get fearful. And I discovered that every time I felt like that, if I sang one of his songs or listened to a piece of his music, it just changed me. It just calmed me down. It helped me to reconnect with that inner river of joy that's always there, but we're not always in contact with. And I also saw, at one point before coming here, in California, I toured with a small group of singers. There were 5 of us, all very good singers, and so it was a really tight group, and we really were able to transmit Swami's music in a very professional way. And I saw how it changed people. We would sing in churches, we would sing in unity churches, New Age churches, also different Protestant churches, and everywhere.
All over Europe, or
no,
Germany?
this was in America.
Okay.
This was before coming to Europe.
Yeah.
In California, in Washington State, Oregon, one time we went up to Canada and sang up there, and I just saw how it transformed people. It was really, really inspiring, and I just saw what a powerful tool it was for the spiritual upliftment of individuals, of course of ourselves, but also the world in a larger way. I could see that. I think that in 100 years it will be recognized as one of the most powerful tools of transformation that's available right now.
Well, we won't be here to check that, but maybe from the other side of the... So, but yes, definitely. I feel the same. I've always felt the same. So, that was in America. Can you share something about how people reacted here in Europe when you were traveling in Italy? Not just the Pope, but Germany, like you said.
Sure. Germany was interesting because the people there are very, tend to be more intellectual and less in the heart, but they still responded beautifully. And at a certain point we had Swami and Rosanna with us, and Swami sang, and it was very obvious how especially when he sang, people just really, really responded. One interesting experience when that happened here in Italy, we did a performance of the Oratorio at the Metastasio Theater in Assisi. And we were singing in English. The whole thing was in English at that time. We had not yet translated some of the songs into Italian. And a man came up to, I believe came up to Swami afterward and said, he spoke French, and Swami also spoke French. And he said, you know, I don't understand English, but I understood every word of the music because he received it on a deeper level. He was feeling it in his heart and intuitively. And we saw this happen a lot. You could just see that it was opening people's hearts. Of course, in Italy, people were always really, really receptive.
Heart-centered in any case,
yeah.
Compared to other countries. So in what capacities did you serve mainly in the field of music here in Europe?
Well, I sang in the choir from the beginning. After about a year and a half, Agni, who was the choir director,
who was American,
who is also American, he was called back to serve at Ananda Village. And at that point, I was the person in the choir who had the most experience and was free had the most time available to direct the choir. So I was asked to do that, and I started directing the choir. And I did that for about 15 years.
Did you have, when you started, any previous experience in conducting?
Just at Ananda Village.
Okay.
It's amazing how Master works in our lives, of course. But in the summer of '88, there was a big celebration for the 4th of July because that is Ananda Village's birthday. And about 2 weeks before the big event, the choir director, a woman named Doris, became ill. And it was obvious that she was not going to be able to direct the choir for this big event. So all of a sudden, I was asked, for the first time in my life, to direct a choir. It was a huge choir. And some of the music was unfamiliar to me because besides Swami's music, we were singing some of the classic American hymns. There are some very beautiful American hymns, American songs. So I did that, and I just had to step up. I didn't have a choice. And then for the Christmas season, this is still in 1988, Doris was called to tour in different churches carrying the Oratorio performance. So again, I was asked to coordinate and direct all of the music activities for the Christmas season at Ananda Village, and there was a lot.
So you did have experience.
I did have experience, and I learned by observing. I watched the first choir director who was at Ananda. I watched Jeannie
another important
Shantz,
musician.
She's in charge of the choir now in Ananda Village. I watched Doris, and I just tried to emulate what they did. And of course, I tried my best to attune myself to Swami's music, and I saw my primary job was to try to transmit to the choir the inspiration I felt from the music, and through my inspiration to draw it out of them.
So when we speak about the choir, we speak about the community Ananda Assisi.
Yes.
What role do you think, we've talked about bringing Swami's music out there, what role do you think this music plays for our community here in Ananda Assisi and generally for community building?
Well, certainly it had a major positive impact on building community, especially at the beginning. Nearly all of us sang in the choir. Almost everybody in the community who could sing was in the choir.
It was in those early years already.
Yeah, this was in the 90s, the early 90s and late 90s. And so we were together many times every week. We had a choir rehearsal once a week. We sang together for the guests at least 3 times a week. And I really think that this had played a major role in helping us to attune ourselves with each other on a very high level, because Swami's music is very subtle and has a very high vibration. And this built deep, deep friendships amongst us. And now the community is larger, and not everybody is in the choir, but I think that the core, the basic core of the community was strengthened by all those years of singing together. Swami Kriyananda said that he would like to see everybody at Ananda sing his music, because he perceived the power of that music. And we've seen it in other areas in Europe where they are building community, where they're creating communities. In many of these places, they've started a choir. You
often go to Ananda Giri, right? In the north, in Piemonte. So can you say what are they doing there with music?
Not a lot in terms of, they don't have a choir, but Cesare Giannica, he and his wife Bharati are the group leaders. They're the directors, and they're both light bearers. And he's a very, very fine musician. So they do a lot of kirtans. And of course, when they do Sunday service, he plays, he sings, he chants. They have meditations there. At least once a week, they have group meditations. People are invited to come. They just recently inaugurated a brand new
yoga hall.
A yoga hall, which is going to be the temple until they manage to complete their final temple, which will be their third temple there. And so there's a lot of music, and of course they're always playing Swami's music. Whenever you walk into the house, the main house, his music is always playing.
So you've mentioned the Oratorio quite a few times. So which is Christ lives in the Holy Land
and in you.
Okay, can you share something about the power or what you perceive as the spiritual quality of that music?
Wow. Well, that's it's not easy to put into words.
I know, because it's music.
Yeah.
That's why it's music, but maybe something.
Well, I can say personally that I grew up, I was born and raised in a Jewish family, and so I didn't have any real relationship to Jesus. In fact, unfortunately, some of my upbringing was to reject even the presence of Jesus, which is, it's a shame, but that's how it was. And so when I came to Ananda, I accepted, okay, he's on the altar and he's one of the masters, but I didn't feel a heart connection to him, and that made me a little sad, especially at Christmas and Easter. I just couldn't really connect with him deeply as I wanted to, like I have with our other masters. And then the music helped a lot when I started directing the Christmas music. That really helped. And I think the Oratorio was sooner. The Oratorio was written
86, I think,
86, yeah. And that was when I actually moved to Ananda Village. And I was actually present and participated in the first recording that the choir did of the Oratorio. And certainly it had an influence on me in that way, to help me to really feel that heart connection, because music opens the heart. And this music was written out of a deep inspiration that Swami felt when he visited the holy sites in the Holy Land. And he was able to transmit the power of those places, which is the power of Christ, which remains in these holy places. He was able to transmit that through the music. So certainly it was instrumental in my process of opening my heart to the presence and the power of Christ.
One particular song, Desert Solitude. Can you just tell us what that is about? I've heard you sing it many times, and it's just beautiful when you sing it.
It's a wonderful song. I mean, it's perfect for my voice, for the soprano voice, but
what is it about?
It's about John the Baptist, and it's kind of setting the scene vibrationally for the baptism of Christ. First, we hear about John, who was in the desert, left his home, roamed in solitude, and
I think it says he was wrapped in solitude.
Wrapped in solitude, far from men's ways. Long years he spoke only with God, till silent of soul, wisdom did fill the ache of his heart. Then he did see God alone. It just touches me. The words touch me. The melody is celestial. It's so beautiful, and of course, it's easy for me to sing because it's right in my optimal voice range. It's always a great blessing to sing that. The other song that I love to sing in the Oratorio is Mary Magdalene. I am thine, thou art mine, hand in hand forever. It's just so sweet, dancing in thy joy. It's a love song to God.
Yeah.
And that's a very sweet one to sing also.
As a choir director, how did you support the soloists? People may have had some stage fright, or how did you work with people when they had to sing individual solos? Was there anything specific that you remember? Because to you it has always come natural. I've never seen you.
Yeah, I've never had.
See this was your way of being, and there was no.
I've never had stage fright singing. Speaking, yes, but not singing. Well, I would, of course, I would rehearse with them, and I would encourage them to feel the meaning of what they were singing. You know, my musical training is not really. I haven't had that much formal musical training, so basically everything I shared with the choir and with soloists has been more intuitive.
And experience-based.
And based on my own experience. Fortunately, I was blessed to have many wonderful soloists with beautiful, beautiful voices. And most of them were not nervous. One thing I did to support them was to try to find the right song for each individual voice, to give each person the solo that they could comfortably sing in their voice range, and that also resonated with their vibration, with their energy.
Yeah. Beautiful. Can you share any particular memory that you have of giving concerts together with Swami Kriyananda, the composer? Oh,
yes. Yes, he sang with us in Germany when we were on tour.
That goes back a long time.
This was in back in '89 and '90, and then one time we sang at the church of Santa Maria Maggiore in Assisi.
In
Assisi. We also sang in the church in Santa Maria sopra Minerva in Rome.
It's a beautiful
church. We did the Oratorio there.
One of my favorite churches.
Yeah, that was amazing. We had live musicians. We had a harpist. It was incredible.
Yeah, about Swami.
Okay, about Swami. So we had decided, because it was a Christian church, and they obviously didn't know anything about Ananda, that we would all use our Christian names, no spiritual names. So we called Swamiji Mr. Walters if we needed to speak with him. And so we were, I think it was before we sang, it was either before or after we sang, and I needed to ask him a question. So I came up to him and I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Walters." And he looked at me and he grinned, and he said, "Don to you." Don was his Donald, Christian name, Donald.
Yeah.
And it was just It was just the cutest thing. It was so sweet. He had this gift to just really put you at ease with humor. It was so sweet. And I said, oh, I love it. And we all laughed.
Beautiful.
Another story that's kind of also humorous, this is from Drupada, because he was one of the singers who came over when I did. And
Drupada is Ananda's most well-known, best-known astrologer.
He lives near Ananda Village, and he is actually internationally known as a Vedic astrologer. He's very, very good.
John MacDonald.
John MacDonald is his original name. And he told me that, because he was a bass, and so he was singing with Swami in the bass section, and he told me one time that they were singing, I think it was even in a concert, and he sang a wrong note, and Swami just went like that, which of course you never do in the choir. No. You know, you're trying to never obviously react because you're in the public, but Swami did that. I thought that was really...
well, he was also the composer. So
he was a composer. It was his music. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But of course, it was always wonderful to sing with him. We would ask him to sing all of the solos, and nobody could sing the solos in the oratorio. All of the solos in the oratorio, the male solos, most of them are Jesus singing, or John the Baptist singing. And nobody could infuse those solos with the power and the spiritual vibrations that Swami could. He was an example to us all because, I mean, we never saw ego in him at all anyway, but when he sang, it was obvious that it was not Kiryananda singing. He was letting that music flow through him. He wasn't thinking at all about himself. He was thinking about God, about, in this case, about Jesus, and those recordings, even just as recordings, still have an incredible power. And we use them a lot in different events. When we have musical events here, we like to include Swami in them, even though he's no longer in the body. And so we will often play one of those recordings.
I remember you sharing with me that one of the pieces that he wrote is actually instrumental that you use for healing. And that is the music that he wrote to the Rubaiyat. I Omar, is that so?
I Omar, yes. It's one of many pieces. There's a whole kind of a science that's been developed around Swami's music by the different music directors at Ananda, using different musical pieces to help to heal different negative emotional states. In my own case, as I said, I often find myself caught up in agitation and anxiety and nervousness, and when that happens, if I put on, especially this music, I Omar, it just calms everything down. It helps me to get back in my center. It relaxes me mentally and emotionally. Often when I'm working on a computer, sometimes I'll find myself getting tense and intense. It's good to focus, but I tend to get a little too intense about it, and I'll put on that music. And it just helps me to just relax and just flow with what I'm doing. I can maintain my concentration, but the tension isn't there. So it's been a very powerful tool for me for healing.
Thank you. So you've been serving, well, we could go on talking about music for the rest of the interview.
Yeah, we're both musicians.
I know, yeah, but also just because of you and how deep it goes with you. But you also do other things. You're, amongst other things, you have been a teacher for many, many years.
Yes.
And you're a minister of Ananda. Can you share something, how you have lived how you have experienced your service as a teacher and also as a minister, especially in this work here in Europe, in the community, the guests, and so forth.
Right. Well, I've only been a teacher and a minister here.
Yeah. Okay.
I
started teaching.
I started
after you
teaching
came
after I came to Ananda, Assisi. Well, it's interesting because as a child, whenever people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I always said I wanted to be a teacher. And I thought that meant that I would be a school teacher. But then I realized that what it meant was, for me, was being a teacher of adults, not children, and being a teacher in the way of sharing the teachings of Yogananda as explained by Swami Kriyananda in a way that could really help people. And I found that Master gave me a gift in this. The first few years that I taught, I would very carefully make an outline, and I would study a lot before the class, and I would have the outline there and follow it. And
was Shivani your coach?
Shivani was my coach. Shivani taught me how to teach. She is like the teacher of all the teachers at Ananda Assisi. And she started me out going with her, traveling with her and doing seminars. And she would do a part and she'd give a part to me. She'd tell me what I should do, and she'd give me input and ideas and feedback afterwards. And then at a certain point, I realized that I didn't really need to do all of that preparation. Some courses, yes, the Bhagavad Gita, of course, something that's very precise and has a lot of detail. I would need to go back and read the material. But I just found that if I prayed before the class, which I always did, I would meditate in the morning and I would ask Master and Swamiji to help me be an instrument. And then I would do the same thing just before the class. And I found that it just flowed. I would have an outline. We have outlines for most of the courses, many of them created by Shivani. And I would refer to that, but things would just come into my mind. I would ask for ideas, things to say that would really be useful for this group of people and for what they needed. And it just came. It just flowed. And it's been that way for over 20 years. So it's a wonderful blessing. Things come out of my mouth that I never even thought of before. It's like, wow, where did that come from? And I remember Swamiji saying the same thing about his teaching, that things would come out that he had never really thought about before. And I'm sure it's his grace and Master's grace that I'm able to do that. I mean, it helps that I have a good mind. It helps that I have studied the teachings a lot, but it's pure grace when I get up there to teach. I can just feel it. And being a minister, that was...
minister and light bearer.
Being a minister and light bearer, that was a little bit tricky at first. I mean, I wanted to serve in that way, but I had this sense of not knowing if I was really worthy. And so at first I was kind of diffident about it. And especially doing Sunday service, that was...
When
first Sunday service that I did, I realized I made a big mistake.
You had to do the talk?
I had to do the talk. Fortunately, I could do it in English, but I mean, this was a group of normal guests, and I said something like, well, one of my teachers said that they think that Swami Kriyananda was an incarnation of Saint Peter, and that Swami was carrying forward the work of his guru the way Saint Peter did with Christ. And I mean, this is just way out in left field when you're talking to
new guests.
And it may not even be true. I mean, Swami never said that. This came from another teacher in Ananda. And I just sort of blurted it out in Sunday service, and then afterwards I realized, oh goodness, that was not the right thing to say. So that taught me a little bit of discrimination and tuning into, again, as with the teaching, what will be useful and inspiring to these people. Sunday service, it's totally different than teaching.
Yeah.
You have 20 minutes to just inspire and bring out a few points that will really be helpful to the people who are living, who are listening, not living, they're all living, but who are listening, who are there. And that's not an easy thing. And so it took me quite a while to be really comfortable doing Sunday service.
And the other aspects of being a minister, like helping people, coaching people?
Counseling, I've done some counseling. I actually studied counseling in college. And this is a really interesting experience for me because I feel that I am capable of doing it and helping people. I think I have helped people in the past when I've done it. But I have to be really careful because I'm hypersensitive. And if I'm not careful, I will absorb energy and thoughts and feelings from other people. And so for a long time, I didn't counsel because I wasn't able to find that balance between opening my heart to that person to help them, but not absorbing their energy and their
problems,
emotion and their problems. And I've learned. Swamiji taught us specific techniques for protecting ourselves, strengthening our aura, things like that. These are written in the book Super Consciousness, and they're very helpful. And once I started to do that, I was able to get back into doing some counseling. But I still don't do it very often, mostly because there are other wonderful counselors available. And my focus has been more, when I'm not teaching, my focus is more on administrative things in the guest retreat, the website, things like that. And so I don't have a lot of time available to also do individual counseling.
Okay. Well, it comes to you sometimes, let's say. Okay.
Yes.
So we have only a few more minutes. I'm enjoying this very deeply,
Me too.
by the way. Yes. Because you can speak about what you really are. That's what I feel like the whole. But my question, let's talk a little bit about community life. I seem to remember that you, even before you were at Ananda, already wanted to be in a community. And how did this come about? And then what do you feel are the specific characteristics of this community? And what do we need as people to qualify and to help build community?
Okay, well that's a big question. That's a lot of material.
Another hour.
My own experience came from, obviously it's karmic. I have a deep karmic connection to Swamiji and the souls who live here. I'm an only child, and so I grew up feeling lonely a lot and wanting family. As soon as I finished university and had some choices, could make my own choices in my life, I moved into a small community in Fort Collins, Colorado. There were about 12 people, and 5 of us were devotees of Yogananda. I had already started I was pretty sure that Yogananda was my master. I wasn't totally sure until I met Swami, but I was pretty sure. And everyone else that lived there was on some spiritual path. So it was very harmonious, and there was a lot of focus on organic gardening. And so I just felt immediately that that was the lifestyle that worked for me, living in an intentional community with like-minded souls. And then, of course, when I discovered Ananda, there was no question. Of course, I was going to move to Ananda. And Swamiji actually said that to me a few years after I had moved to Ananda, he said, the first time I met you, I knew that you would come and live with us. It was just so obvious. I mean, there was no question. So what living in community has done for me, it taught me how to be with people. I mean, living as an only child, living in a family where there was not very much real communication, I just didn't know. I was awkward. I would get shy around people. I would ask stupid questions because I didn't know what to say, and then people didn't want to be around me. I just didn't know how to be with other people in a relaxed and positive way. And living in community helped me with that. It showed me my mistakes. By observing the other people, I could see what was working for them, how they behaved, and I could try to emulate their behavior and feel if it was right for me. So, of course, Ananda is absolutely unique because everybody is on the same path. Everybody is tuning into the same masters and to Swamiji. And this creates an incredible, deep harmony, even though, as with any group of people, there are things that come up. There are disagreements, and sometimes people even get mad at each other. I mean, it happens. But because we have this deep sense of unity in God, in the gurus, in Swamiji, and in our love for each other as souls, all these superficial things, they don't really matter and they don't really last. And Ananda Sizi, the strengths of Ananda Sizi that I've experienced is a deep sense of devotion, a deep sense of family, especially pre-COVID. It was even more so because everybody ate together in the dining room. We were all around the guests. There wasn't that much of a distinction between the guest retreat and the community. COVID, of course, changed that. We had to separate more. The community had to find another center. And it's a pity in some ways. It was good for the guest retreat in some ways, but it is a pity because one of the most important part of the guest's experience here has been being with us, with the community.
Yeah.
And it's slowly changing back. Different community members are being invited to come and serve a little bit and have meals with the guests. And so we're trying to keep that sense of integration, even though on a material level there is separation.
Something has changed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, one last question. You're also a yogi, obviously. You're a Kriya yogi. You're on a spiritual path. You meditate. As a devotee, what do you feel is the most important quality to always observe in your spiritual life?
For me personally?
Yeah, and also maybe something you could share with others as a suggestion.
Certainly devotion. Absolutely.
Who are you devoted to?
Devotion to God as Divine Mother.
Divine Mother.
I love Divine Mother.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I've always been into either Divine Mother as an abstract concept or the Indian manifestations.
Durga,
Lakshmi. But I just recently, and I think it stems from just 2 weeks ago, we went on a pilgrimage to Padre Pio in southern Italy, and I just started to feel a heart connection with the Madonna.
Only 2 weeks ago. It had never really happened before.
It never really happened before. I mean, I revered the symbol, but you know, there was always sort of the church dogma that kind of didn't feel in tune with that. But all of a sudden, I just felt like, yes, she really is a channel for the Divine Mother. And I started thinking about Medjugorje and all of the different ways that she has communicated with the world. And the amazing thing is that as soon as we returned here, back from Padre Pio, somebody gave me a gift of a little statue of the Madonna of Medjugorje.
Amazing.
and I put it on our altar.
And it's, yeah.
So that was really, that was sweet. Devotion has always been my saving grace because my mind is excessively restless. I think more so than most people. So to concentrate, to practice Hong Sa, to practice Kriya Yoga, it's a struggle for me to keep my mind focused and not take off in different directions. A continual. After almost 40 years, over 40 years of practicing Kriya Yoga, I still struggle with it every day. And what saves me is devotion. When I find myself too restless to do Kriya correctly, I just stop and I just start calling to Divine Mother, calling to Master. In my case also I call to Swamiji, asking them to come to me, to be present, to help me feel their presence. And that will uplift me into a higher level of consciousness where I can then concentrate in the techniques better.
You know, I think this is a wonderful way to end the interview, devotion to Divine Mother, as being the most important thing. And I think Swami had devotion to Divine Mother.
Yes.
Yogananda brought Divine Mother to the world back, you might say, as a concept of God as Mother. And maybe that is a secret for modern spirituality as well, and for the world.
Yes,
So
I think
thank
so.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank
it's been
you
a
so
great
much.
joy.
Also for me. Thank you. And God bless you all.
Roaming across desert sands, seeking God's truth.